Good day, everyone. Apa kabar? Welcome to the Natural Resources of Brunei Darussalam. Now let's start with what are the natural resources of Brunei? Brunei is an Asian nation that is situated in the continent of Southeastern, which is edges in a spanning area of 226 square miles. And in 2017, there is 12 the Brunei gross domestic product was approximately to $12.13 billion, which ranged as the 129th highest in the world based on the estimate from World Bank. So now let's start with different major of natural resources of Brunei. So we have 6 major natural resources of Brunei. Let's start with number 1. It is the land resources, which estimates from the World Bank that an arable land is comprises of 2.7% of the country's total area. However, number 2 is the livestock, which is the most keeps are the cattle, buffalo, and poultry. Number 3 is the forest, which the data indicates close to 72% of Brunei's total area was covered with forest. And in number 4, it is the beautiful scenery, which Brunei has been blessed with a variety of beautiful sights. So later on, you will see or you would appreciate and love the beautiful scenery of Brunei. Number 5, it is the oil. My deepest apology for this part is not been into the sequence. So let's just proceed. In oil of Brunei has this most critical natural source, which in number 6, it is the natural gas, which has these significant deposits of natural gas. Let's start with number 1 in land resources. So in land resources, as what I've said earlier, the arable land resources in Brunei has this 2.7 of the country's total area. And in 1996, the Bruneian agricultural sector that contributed roughly to 5% to the country's gross domestic product. In 1980, due to the low quantities of food produced in Brunei, the nation was forced to import close to 80% of its food crops. And the Bruneian estimates that the country is close to being self-sufficient in the production of vegetables. However, before in the Philippines, the self-sufficient in the Philippines is if I'm not mistaken, that is the sugar and the rice itself. So these are the examples of the land resources. And let's move on to the rice also is one of the most important food crop in Brunei due to the large quantities of rice the Bruneian people consume. So which is somehow good because people, or not just only in the Philippines, known as the rice country, but we have also some colleagues in this term. So however, despite of this importance, only 1% rice eaten in the country's grown, which is borders. And we have this modernized, thus the government of the Brunei has these several steps to something modernize the country in farming sector, which is through the introducing of modernized technology and irrigation schemes. Brunei government encouraged the farmers to grow these citrus fruits that particularly meant for the exportation towards market. But however, the measures that the government has put into place sadly point that Bruneian people or the country's agricultural sector has been failed to grow. It's because of the Bruneian people are not interested in working. And according to Bruneian Labor Department, that close to 4.5% of the Bruneian labor force is work in a country's agricultural sector. So there was just being forced. There is no such a voluntary work at this. So which made them, or many of them, has this lack of interest. It's because of the low salaries, which quite connected to what Philippines had on state. So it's not typically kind of different from what Philippines had, because teenage or the youth nowadays are not really into the farming, and that's what kind of problems that had been faced in the Philippines. So it is something quite alarming for the both of the countries, because agricultural sector nowadays are being aging when it comes to the farmers, and it must be changed the generation of it. So let's proceed. Livestock. So since Brunei is a Muslim nation in 1993, the government made it illegal for the farmers to rear pigs. Thus, the common types of livestock had is the cattle, buffalo. And for this kind of, or the most common of the variety kept here in Brunei is the poultry, or the chicken itself, which is made for both meat and egg purposes. And the and also Brunei had also achieved sufficiency when it comes to the egg production. So these are the examples of cattle and buffalo and also chickens from Brunei. Now let's proceed to the forest. Forest data indicates that close to 72% of Brunei's total area was covered with forest in 2015. And since in 2004, the amount of land in Brunei was covered in forest has been declining significantly. It is because to the needs for the lands or other purposes. So thus, the several types of forests are the lowland forest, peat swamp forest, and mangrove forest. However, mangrove forests are also widespread in Brunei, which is especially along the country's coast. And the Bruneian government estimates that the peat swamp forest, which actually occupies as 15% of the country's total area, which historically saying or evidence that the mangrove forest previously covered most of the areas are currently covered with peat swamp forest. Thus, the common forest variety of Brunei is mixed with dipterocarp forest, which had been in 33% in the entire area. Now, when we say dipterocarp, it is those fall forest tree which are obtained resins and timber for the export trade that occurring mainly in the Southeast Asia. These are the examples of the Brunei. Now let's proceed with a beautiful scenery. Beautiful scenery in Brunei is famous for the tourists due to the vast biodiversity with its borders. However, Brunei's forests are the particular popular with ecotourists. And one of the Brunei's premier tourist destination is the Ulu Temburong National Park. The park is also commonly referred to as the Faithful Park, which is popular because it was First Nations or Nations First Park. And this park is often referred to as the Brunei's Green Jewel. So there are several rivers flow through the Faithful Park, which is major ones is the Bilalong River and the Timbarorong River or Timborong River. Now we have Brunei also has some historical sites that been attractive vast numbers of tourists, which is the major one is the Sultan Umar Ali Safidun Mosque. So this is the example of Sultan Umar Ali Safidun Mosque and the beautiful scenery of. Proceed to the oil. Country's economy or the oil country's economy has this sector been most crucial sector in the Brunei for about close to 80 years. And the oil exploration in Brunei had begun in 19th century. Thus, in 1899, the country's first oil well was being drilled in Bandar Seri Begawan, which is the capital of Brunei. And at that time, there were 6 corporations were involved in the exploration of oil in Brunei. One of this is the Royal Dutch Shell, which is one of the companies involved in the exploration of oil Brunei. And due to the low amount of this, the companies discovered that they withdrew from Brunei, and by 1918, only Royal Dutch Shell Corporation was being actively involved in this oil exploration in Brunei. Now, the first commercially viable field of the Shara field, which was located in country's western edge, and for this significant portion of Brunei's modern history, the field was only commercially viable oil field in the country, which been discovered several other companies and then began exploring oil Brunei in 1914 to 1960. That was actually close to 50 oil exploration were carried out in the country, although none of them was successful, but by early 1940s, the field produced roughly in 17,000 barrels of oil each day. Thus, this Brunei active peak oil production during late 1970s. And when the nation produced roughly, it produced somehow the 1,341,957.3 cubic feet of oil each day. So imagine the oil how the oil significant as the natural resources of Brunei. Examples of photos in the oil of Brunei. The natural gas. So natural gas in Brunei is, apart from oil, Brunei has also significant deposits when it comes to natural gas. And the nation is home to one of the largest natural gas processing plants in the world. Thus, this Brunei also have the natural gas for its export and primarily sold to Japan. And Brunei also sells vast quantities of natural gas to South Korea. So South Korea and Japan is one of their somehow the deliberation of their natural gases. So I think that would be all. Terima kasih. Thank you so much. But before we truly end, I would love to that expect the unique riches of each countries and be in love to Brunei. That will be all. Thank you so much.